Today I'm going to teach you a very important skill. How to tell if something is complete bullshit. When a new supplement or product enters the market, there are 3 core ways that you can get influenced into purchasing it. First is marketing hype. This is where the brand strategically plans out content to build awareness. It often includes the use of influencers or affiliates and may include creating more scarcity through giveaways to create even more marketing hype. Next is trust in the brand or the specific authority figures associated with that brand. If I've spent a long time sharing good information with you, you're more likely to trust me. And the stronger that trust is, the more willing you are to put that trust into me blindly, for better or worse. We also place trust in celebrities and athlete endorsements, which is why influencer marketing is so powerful. And finally, we have the actual research. Does the product contain the things that you want in the doses that you want, and does it fulfill a specific purpose for you? There's a clear overlap between all these factors, but today we're going to focus a little bit more on this one. I'm going to show you how to deconstruct a supplement, critically assess it, and discern whether it's worth spending your hard-earned cash on or whether it's a complete waste of time. This is important because if you don't know how to do this, you expose yourself to being misled by bullshit marketing hype and people who might use their perceived authority in one area, like having a jacked, shredded physique that was probably achieved through drugs, to sell you supplements or services that you don't need because they're making a ton of money from you by selling their bullshit.
There's a lot of subprimals that are convinced that Liver King is taking steroids. If you don't believe this is possible, then I suggest that you take that self-limiting belief, you put that shit in a fucking box and you bury that next to all your embarrassing shit and don't open your fucking mouth about it. Let that live with you.
Several months later.
I'm making this video to apologize. Yes, I've done steroids, and yes, I'm on steroids.
Or getting paid a fat commission as an influencer.
What is the most you've ever made from a brand deal, a one-off?
My highest was like 17K. But I'm gonna be honest with you, that's not high enough.
$17,000 for a single post, which I'm sure has gone up since then and is only a fraction of what he really makes from long-term brand partnership deals and affiliates. This is not a dig at Jesse James West. He might not be your cup of tea, but I think he puts out entertaining content and seems like a great guy. I only picked him because he's one of very few who has been transparent about his earnings, which is a really important lesson for many of you who might not realize just how lucrative that side of the business can be. So here's how to take the power back and break things down logically to make the most informed decision possible on where to spend your hard-earned money. Before we go any further, it's worth mentioning that this is not a sponsored video. It's not an ad. I never accept any paid endorsements no matter how profitable they can be. My channel will always be about sharing information with as little bias as possible. Step 1 is find the ingredient list. Now, Derek's new product is extremely transparent, which is already a huge thumbs up. And he's even gone a step further and just released a video going through a full dissection and analysis of every single ingredient, the research and his reasonings for putting it in. I love that, because even if he was wrong about something, he's putting himself out there to be open, honest, and not intentionally mislead anyone. So we're gonna go through this and I'll give you my thoughts on it and whether I recommend it or not in a sec. But first, contrast that with one of Australia's most popular fat-burning pre-workouts, OxyShred, where there is no detailed ingredient list. That is a dead giveaway that this product is probably full of shit. Sorry guys, I guess I probably won't be accepting that partnership you offered me. Yes, it's got a whole bunch of active ingredients in it, but because they don't disclose the exact doses, they could have just put the most infinitesimal inactive amount that confers no benefit in it and still label it and use it in their marketing. So EHP Labs is asking me to trust that they, the company who stands to benefit financially from misleading me, won't use lower doses or cheaper products to cut their costs and instead invest all their time and effort into marketing hype and scientific reference dumps. For all we know, it could be a legit product using fantastic evidence-based doses. I really hope it is, but it's just as likely that it's complete bullshit. So anytime that you see proprietary blends or undisclosed doses of ingredients, run the other way. Here's something you might not realize. A lot of supplement companies will pick their ingredients based on what's trending on Google and not because there's a ton of research supporting their use in humans. Things like Garcinia cambogia and raspberry ketones used to be super popular, not because of all their beneficial effects and research, but because they were featured on Dr. Oz. Another example is Logan Paul's Prime Hydration formula. It can be marketed as an electrolyte formula, and he bangs on about how it has more electrolytes and less sugar than his competitors, and how it doesn't really taste salty compared to his competitors. But that's because he only uses about 3% of the amount of sodium that they do, which makes no sense because sodium is the main ingredient you want in an electrolyte formula for it to work well. But that doesn't matter because he just wants to sell you shit. Assuming we have the ingredient list and doses, we can go through and fact check them. Do they A, have a clear mechanism of action how they're meant to work in your body? B, do they have any supporting research supporting their effectiveness in humans? And C, are they used in the correct doses that are supported by the research? And this is where it can get a little bit nerdy and technical, so pay attention now while I show you what I personally do. The first place I go to is examine.com. Again, I'm not sponsored whatsoever. Gorilla Mind has the following ingredients, and if we search them, we can very quickly find how the compound works, what some of the pros doses are, and the research supporting it on examine.com. Alpha GPC has a lot of data on it that we can nerd out on to your heart's content. But we can't just take the fact that research exists on the topic to mean that it's good. There's differences in validity and generalization to the wider population of the findings of different studies. And most importantly, there's differences in dosages. Now, Derek captured a good amount of research, but not all of it. And out of all the research he did provide, if you look at the actual referenced papers, the vast majority were using significantly higher doses than what's in his product. There were a couple of studies that did use a lower dose and saw some benefits at around 200 250 milligrams, although they did also state that higher doses are more likely to yield the beneficial effects. And this is why it's so important to not take the studies on face value or to blindly trust what I or Derek or anyone else tells you, and instead go a little bit deeper into what the research is actually saying. Something else to keep in mind is Gorilla Mind uses alpha GPC 50%, which is where they take the alpha GPC and they cut it with 50% filler. It sounds shady, but this is completely fine. It's done because alpha GPC in its purest form is really hard to work with and less stable as it draws in moisture really easily. So cutting it helps to avoid this. But that means that the dose here of 400 milligrams is actually 200 milligrams. Unless they mean that they've put in 800 milligrams to yield 400 milligrams of active ingredient. I don't know, and I could be wrong on that. So if I am, I do apologize. So does this mean Derek is full of shit and underdosing his products? Absolutely not. The dose he uses is lower, but it's not so low that it's completely ineffective. And while you're probably not going to want to dose his exact product 3 times a day, this absolutely could make up part of a larger supplement stack, where you enjoy a beverage in the morning with the other ingredients coming along for a ride, and you take some alpha GPC in isolation later in the day if that's what you want. Now, I'm not going to bore you by going through this process with each ingredient here, because at some point I want you to learn to fish for yourself, or watch Derek's video and do your own follow-up fact checking on the research he presents. You can see just how deep this stuff can really get, and why most people are going to be like, you know what, screw it. I'm happy to be led by placebo, marketing hype, and influencers. And that is completely fair enough. But that's the point I want you to consider. Businesses have to focus on their bottom line. They can get there by providing an excellent product, or they can get there by providing a misleading and mediocre product, but glam it up with marketing hype and a facade of misleading evidence and authority. Derek has done a great job in sales of presenting his reasonings and research breakdowns. I don't believe he's trying to mislead anybody and is at his absolute best to create a fantastic product. And I'm sure he would also be the first to say, don't take his word for it blindly, and learn to look further into the research yourself to make your own judgment call. If you are consuming this stuff, then I imagine you care even just a little bit about improving and optimizing your life. And part of that will also come from doing the work to be able to think for yourself and improve your understanding on what you're doing. So let's cut to the chase. Do I recommend this new drink? I could argue that some of these ingredients may be better dosed in slightly higher amounts, but Derek is also likely keeping in mind taste and solubility in making not just a beverage, but a carbonated beverage, where it definitely is tougher to just jam in more ingredients, even if you wanted to. I personally wouldn't use this because I'd rather source the individual ingredients myself and create my own stack. I did a quick search on iHerb without even trying to budget, and I wound up roughly $1 to $1.50 cheaper per serve when sourcing the raw ingredients at retail price. This also lets me adjust the stack to my needs. I'm very sensitive to caffeine. I would rather enjoy a coffee on occasion and go a lower dose in supplemental caffeine or use no caffeine at all. And I can't do that with the drink. I also can't experiment with adding in or reducing the doses of different ingredients to test how I react to each one in isolation. But really, it doesn't matter what I recommend or not, because I am not you. For many of you, this may be a great product. I can only present to you the facts or give you the ability to find the facts for yourself and leave it up to you to make your own decision. So I hope you found this helpful as a very simple way for you to understand how I go through and work out if something is worth your while.